Thank you, Jane.
Here you go.
I was kind of getting used to it. Do you want to keep going? No? Welcome. It's so amazing to see such a full room, full house. First time we have 2 days of a conference, so I hope you guys are ready for 2 days of amazing content. Yeah, I'm probably going to be a little rusty. I've been on paternity leave quite a bit. So again, Jane, if I don't go too far, okay? So over the next 2 days, I'd love to cover with you a couple of topics. We always try to sort of weave in all the different talks and messages that we want to pass. And so first and foremost, I hope you're going to get an idea of how quickly the community is growing. And most importantly, the adoption of our project is getting more and more real. That's what we're going to focus very much today. And then tomorrow, my hope is that you understand what can we do next, both in terms of really bigger and higher order challenges that the maturity of our community has helped us, think about. And okay, of course, we're going to have to talk about AI. There's going to have to be quite a bit of content tomorrow, so just make sure you hang in there until then. So, starting with our first topic. We are now 6 years into FINOS, and I don't know that I could ever expect sort of this rate of growth, especially in the last year. And so I want to first start with a pretty logo slide. We have 95 members. I was really hoping we would be 100 by now, but okay, fine. I guess we'll survive. This is a 30% growth in the last year. So I think this speaks volumes in terms of the value that these organizations are getting out of our collaboration. Just to give you an idea, as I said, about 30 new members this year. These are the ones that already joined earlier in the year, and today we are also announcing State Street Temporal as Juxt as silver members. We're announcing Moody's as a gold member, and you'll hear from them tomorrow. We're announcing 2 new platinum members, NVIDIA and Protect AI. As I said, we'll talk about AI. So a huge thank you to our members for supporting us and making us be here. But of course, we're a nonprofit, and we're not measured in revenue, although that certainly helps growing faster. What we're measured on is the breadth and the depth of our projects, and that continues to grow across our special interest groups that really create, you'll hear a lot about it, areas, sort of safe spaces for collaborating on different topics, whether it be AI readiness, whether it be open source regulation, whether it be DevOps. But increasingly, we're seeing projects that are more and more impactful. Earlier in the year, we received a contribution from AWS, the HTC Grid, UBS, Vue. We merged with OS Climate. You'll hear a lot about it over the next 2 days on sustainable finance. It is amazing, and I hope that throughout the next 36 hours, you'll get an idea of how not only these projects are growing individually, but how they are connected to each other to really deliver compounded value. Most importantly, I had to figure out a way to work in baby pictures into this presentation. I'm blushing. And the way I worked it in is all this growth happened very much where I was not here. So is that a coincidence? Kidding aside, I want to send a shout out to Jane, who's been, not only not letting the house go on fire, but really leading the foundation as I was out this summer. So Jane, I don't know if you want to say a couple of words.
Well, it wasn't me leading the foundation, it was all of us leading the foundation. So one of the things I want to share with you guys is that it took one guy, and then it took a whole team to cover for Gab while he was gone. But we did it all together, and I think we're all proud of the work we've done. So what we normally do is we ask the team to come on stage at the end of the conference, but I think it's really important for you all to know who the team is. And this is probably the most important thing for us. This is the most energizing moment for twice a year that we get. So first of all, I'd love to ask the FINOS team to come on stage right now, and as they gather, I just want you to see everyone, know who they are, and please, please, the next best thing, that we get the energy from you guys, and we want you to come up to us and introduce yourselves and tell us what you think and give us feedback. And so yeah, this is it. This is it. We're super excited that you all are here, and please come talk to us.
They also talk, huh? They can talk, it's not just for the show.
And I did forget one housekeeping thing while we're moving. Your ID has a QR code, which has the information about the schedule. So if you scan the QR code, you will know what the schedule is at any moment in time.
Thank you, Jane, and thank you to the team. You know, I'm so thankful for the work that the team has done, but what struck me as I came back from paternity leave was really to call out what this community is accomplishing. It's really building a new identity. I think about it as building connections, building new synapses every day. As I said, not just individual members working on individual projects, which really has been sort of early in the days how we started this community. But you're starting to see competitors working with each other on common projects. You're seeing projects connecting to each other across the stack to build maybe not a full solution, but getting you almost 90% of the way there. And that's really what this community is about. You'll see special interest groups where people with similar interests within part of the organizations really start to think about common challenges that are pre-competitive and can be addressed together in the open. And so for all the talk about artificial intelligence that we're going to have tomorrow, trust me, there's going to be a lot of it. I want to send a shout out to the sort of collective intelligence that this community is building. So thank you so much. Our team is just here really to elevate you. And I want to be clear, this is not just about our community. Our mission per our board has always been to grow the adoption and the impact of open source in the whole industry. You don't need to be a member to participate to our community. And we're seeing a lot of organizations that, effectively are decoupled. They're not engaged in FINOS just yet, but they adopt our standards and just generally start contributing upstream. So I'm really excited to release today our 4th State of Open Source in Financial Services report. A huge shout out to our partners who worked on it, and to Linux Foundation Research, who's always amazing in providing sort of professional research. You got the QR code there. Make sure you download it. You hear quite a bit of nuggets today and tomorrow throughout our keynote, but you also have a panel later today with the actual authors of the report if you want to dive deep. This is not just marketing or research, it's certainly value for our members, but it also drives our progress and our direction. And the survey proves, once again, a growth in contribution from the industry. We work with GitHub to collect those data. Once again, year on year, contributions are about 25% up from financial institutions to public open source repositories. With folks confirming that they're spending about 50% are spending more time to contribute to open source, once again, year on year. And since we're now at the 4th iteration of this survey, we can start plotting some trend activities, which actually confirm what we're finding. The number of individual contributors for financial institutions, it's growing, but it's sort of steady, slow and steady. In the last year, we've seen a massive growth in terms of actual commits and pull requests and contributions from those folks, which again sort of confirms that people are spending more time contributing to open source. And not just to their own open source projects, but to upstream. And that's something that, again, 4 or 5 years ago, even, it was almost half of it. We have about 85% of folks saying that they're contributing upstream to third-party open source projects, going back to that sort of cross-pollination, something that, again, about 3-4 years ago was only less than 40. So I think these are all signs, sort of macro signs of a very, very healthy and growing community. But to root it in sort of a concrete example in terms of where this contribution is really, really coming together, I want to bring up one of our key initiatives, Open RegTech, this idea of mutualizing regulatory technology interpretation and implementation. And specifically, one of the sort of core projects in that initiative, our common domain model, was contributed about 2 years ago now from ISDA, ISLA, and ICMA, 3 major industry associations. Before I ask Jane to fill us in on the progress, she leads the Open RegTech initiative from a FINOS standpoint. I just want to show you a quote from the report, which again, I think shows, of course, we'll talk about the role of foundations for open source projects and open standards, but the SIGs that we have really provide a safe space for organizations to learn from each other, and again, for understanding common challenges that then we can go and solve through open source code and open standards. How about you tell us about open source projects and standards?
I promise it's the last time for today I'm up here. So this is, as Gab said, I lead the Open RegTech. I focus on it from a FINOS perspective. And CDM is quite near to my heart because I've seen this in my work at banks and technology, what a standard, especially a standard that helps to model transactions, particularly derivative transactions, but all kinds of complex transactions and their affiliated activities, how much it could smooth the path for information to travel more seamlessly. So as Gab said, this has been now a journey about two and a half years in the making. FINOS has done work with ISDA before as a pilot, and I think that pilot exercise, and the reason I want to tell this story is because many of our projects follow a similar path, and this is something actually we discussed earlier today at breakfast of how does one start a project, how does one get it going, how does one get it adopted, and this is a good example. We have a few of those, but this is a good example of that. So we started with a pilot, with a few collaborators. Goldman Sachs and Legend collaborated, ISDA, and a couple of other people. And after the pilot was successful, we started doing more and more work with ISDA until we finally made a proposal. ISDA was looking to open source and build a community around the CDM, and that happened at the end of 2022. Our proposal was accepted, and we started the work. Ever since then, representatives from ISDA, ICMA, ISLA have been at OSFF. They've had lots of people to talk to. I remember the first time this was a standing room only breakout talk. And I remember Grizz walking around and telling everybody to get out, the talk is over, you gotta go to the other talks, and no one would leave because everybody was so excited. And that was 2 years ago, and since then we've built working groups. We have now 6, we had more, 1 started and then did their job and finished. There's releases going out all the time. Even the contribution of Rune, I think, helped here as well. We've had hands-on working sessions with the various teams throughout last year and this year. And then this year we also collaborated on applying the CDM to a particular business case around digital regulatory reporting. So This is really different people coming together to collaborate at different times, and a lot has happened. There will be, by the way, a presentation on the CDM today. There's one on digital regulatory reporting tomorrow. Please come and learn more about it. I'm thrilled, and there's a lot more to do in this, and this is really like really daily work that people come and put into it. But as Gab said, the SIG, the special interest group, was really instrumental in helping us find the right business case. It wasn't exactly obvious. There are lots of potential business cases, but the one we finally picked and the one that will be demonstrated was something that people said, yes, I can implement this today. And so even in London at our conference, we had JP Morgan and RBC on stage talking about the work they're doing. And that's really important because it's important to hear from you guys what is being implemented. But it's even more important to sponsor the work, either by donating people hours to this, or in some cases funding some of the work to move these things along. So I'm really thrilled about how much progress we've made, and there's tons more to go. So please find out about this and join us in this project. Oh yes, I forgot again. And to cap it all off, thank you, Gab, I forgot. So thanks to the work of TradeHeader and Linux Foundation Training, and some of the FINOS team, we are actually also releasing today an Introduction to CDM course that is free. It's very short, and we'll be talking about that course also today at one of the sessions. And this hopefully will make it even more accessible to the community to learn more and to decide when and how to participate. So please take a look.
Thank you, Jane. We've seen a similar pattern last year with FDC3. When we released the training, we've had hundreds and hundreds, actually thousands of folks taking the training, and I think that really has a huge impact in growing the community. So please make sure that you take a look. It's free. And what I think Jane forgot about it is there is code. So take a look at the open regulatory reporting repo. Start that repo, engage. It's open for everyone. Now, we talked about contribution, but of course, adoption is the ultimate measure of value and what we're measured on in terms of success. That is why folks hopefully will keep coming and joining and supporting our effort through becoming members. And so what I want to talk in the next section is really the value that these organizations are seeing through some concrete examples of how they're adopting our projects and standards in real life, in production. Our survey tells us that organizations are perceiving value out of open source engagement. And as technologists, I realize that I don't look like one right now, but we always knew that open source adds value to our organizations. But as you probably know, especially in a conservative industry like financial services, that is only half of the job. The other part is making the right business folks and senior leaders perceive that value and understand that, for example, as the Harvard 2 census from 2 years ago, Census 2 survey from 2 years ago shown, there's about 1,000% multiplier between the demand side and the supply side of open source. So the value of market and goods and services around open source is about 1,000 times bigger than the cost needed to build that code. And so what does it mean to make that value perceived? Sure, we put open source on the map. Many financial and trade press now cover open source regularly. A lot of the folks on those articles are actually members of our community, and they advocate for us. Going back to what Jane said, you are the best spokespeople for what you're seeing here. But the value has been recognized at the very top levels at these organizations. This is a screenshot from the Bank of Montreal 2023 shareholders report that mentions FINOS and mentions open source as a critical factor, as an element of leadership, as an element of innovation, again, the value is being recognized, and just a few years ago, this would be unthinkable. So I don't know where Kim is, who's been a leader in our foundation, but thank you for helping us feature FINOS and open source where we think it should be. Now, enough talking from me. Let's get concrete here. How many of you are familiar with FDC3? Woo! Okay, well, enough, but I think there's more. There's more to learn. In fact, last year, someone who will soon have on stage said that this conference should be FDC3Con. As much content as there was and there will be around FDC3. This is our Financial Desktop Connectivity and Collaboration Consortium. It's one of our most advanced standards. And I hope to share in the next few minutes how much the network effect is kicking in for this project in terms of adoption from some of the largest players out there. In case you don't know, if you go to fdc3.finos.org, you'll see a list of adopters. We know that the adoption is much bigger, but as you know, it's not always easy to get a financial institution logo up in a web page. We also have a conformance program that we run as FINOS based on an open source conformance kit that the maintainers of the standard maintain. And up to now, we've had several vendors complying with the standards, both with version 1.2 and version 2.0. But without further ado, I would like to bring on stage the original maker of the FDC3Con joke and one of our greatest advocates, Dov Katz from Morgan Stanley. Welcome, Dov.
All right. By the way, I think it was 2 years ago. It was downtown. We made the FDC3Con joke. So it's been 2 years. Just shows that, back to what Jane was saying, it takes a while for this stuff to sink in, but once it sinks in, there's no stopping it. So I'm very pleased to announce that Morgan Stanley is among the first financial services institutions to achieve FDC3 2.0 conformance, and it's really exciting. So wait for thunderous applause. That's in the notes, yeah. It's a big deal. We did it for our Compose UI open source project, which I hope you star on GitHub. We are seeing a lot of participants and adopters becoming certified, and it makes a lot of sense to do it whether you're serving your employees, your clients, or your partners. So whether you're in the financial services industry as a financial institution or whether you're a vendor, I encourage you to get certified so that you can start to drive the standard, join the calls, and really shape where it goes next. Last year, on this stage, I believe, Morgan Stanley and Wellington did an initial presentation demoing the interoperability between our two applications. Tomorrow at 3:15, Morgan Stanley, I have colleagues, as well as Wellington and Symphony, will give a more advanced presentation demo that integrates more securely, more direct connection between the applications. I encourage people to attend that tomorrow at 3:15. So again, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity, and I'm really proud of what we've been able to achieve. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Dov. This is truly exciting. Dov and the Morgan Stanley team has been an amazing force across all layers of engagement in our foundation. So make sure you start the repo, check it out, and again, it's FDC3 compliant. Now, continuing on this path, we have two more speakers talking about FDC3 with some interesting announcements. I want to bring up on stage first Sitija Sarkar, Technical Fellow and Managing Director of Client Experience at BlackRock, and then one of the old-timers of the foundation, not in terms of age, in terms of participation, Frank Terzillo, Chief Technology Officer at S&P Global Market Intelligence. Sitija, welcome on stage.
Thank you, Gab. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Sitija Sarkar, FINOS board member and head of Aladdin Client Experience Engineering at BlackRock. Earlier this year, BlackRock joined FINOS, and I joined the board following that. I'm honored to be here representing both FINOS and BlackRock to celebrate many FDC3 wins across the industry, including BlackRock's tech platform, Aladdin, receiving FDC3 confirmance today. Thank you. BlackRock is fundamentally built on open source. From the technologies that power our infrastructure to the collaborative innovations that we embrace, open source is at the core of everything. It enables us to be agile, efficient, scalable, and faster. This commitment extends to our belief that open source isn't just a technological asset or a tool, but definitely a strategic imperative. As leaders in fintech, we recognize the important role of open standards and interoperability in this digital age. And that's why initiatives like FDC3 are so important. FDC3 is changing the way how financial institutions are working together by creating a common language and standards for applications, data, and processes across the ecosystem. For Aladdin, FDC3 standards will ensure seamless interoperability and workflow efficiencies, future-proofing Aladdin ecosystem for faster, secure, and flexible client value delivery. Now, as of now, we are leveraging FDC3 to streamline workflows and integrate our products more efficiently for our Aladdin users. As we are excited to work with partners and clients across the ecosystem in the future. Microsoft. FINOS is also exploring some of the new opportunities that FDC3 can bring to an increasingly AI-driven world. And this is where Microsoft comes in. FINOS is excited to be partnering with Microsoft to enable a number of scenarios where Copilot can send FDC3 messages, letting users seamlessly transition between Copilot conversations and the rich experiences in FDC3-enabled apps. For example, you could ask Copilot to find companies whose CEOs have an interest, say, in running, weightlifting, Pilates, some niche characteristics. Now, what Copilot would do is it could send that list as an intent to an asset research platform for deeper analysis, which allows us to seamlessly transition from gathering unique insights to conducting more detailed financial research. And mind you, all this is happening within the same workflow. For more information, please check out the Microsoft's booth at FINOS. With this, I want to invite Frank on the stage. Welcome, Frank.
Thank you. Thank you. Hello. It's nice to be here again. It's nice to be back. Oh, thank you. I need that. Oh, yeah, we need that. As Gab said, I'm kind of an old timer here. Go back even on the FDC3 specification. I was actually one of the original contributors to that specification, and I'm sorry if you use AppD. I'm sorry. Apologies on my bad code. But I think it's important to understand how important these open standards are. And I didn't appreciate, even when we were building that standard up on 1.0, how important it would become. And I'm looking at the audience today going, it's amazing how big this has gotten and how FDC3 is now Khan, which I think is quite interesting. But I didn't understand until I inherited about 100, 200, maybe 300 applications in my work efforts in my organization. And how do I bring those diverse applications together, not just from the back to the front, but from the front to the back. And we thought it was quite easy to start looking at FDC3 as a potential opportunity to tie that all together. And we have been working on that as a company, as an open standard adoption company. So let me go to the next slide. Oh, did what we did. Okay, there we go. That's better. We're not working well with the slides today. Okay, so we have this view of today, we use ChartIQ. ChartIQ, we've already adopted that. It's historic, again, in the FINOS space. That works really well. Interop.io is integrated with that and others. You see the value of that. But how did I think about tying back those hundreds of applications over time? So again, we've now looked at adopting it holistically in S&P Global as a means of setting context intents, being able to think about, again, going from front to back versus doing all the big heavy data integration. So we're quite excited about that. And I hope when I come back next year, if I'm invited, we will be certified as well. That's quite exciting. So if we look at the path ahead, and I actually think this is really just a few announcements here. First, clear announcement of 2.2. FDC 3 2.2 has been adopted and standardized. And I was looking at the notes, because I said I'm getting old. So I went back to the notes to look at what was adopted. And I did go to GitHub, and I did look at the READMEs. It's really great to see the web standard coming about. New protocol, new .NET bindings. I remember my bindings days. Looking at, obviously, more context, more intents coming through. The community, just the volume of community embracing it was just fantastic. The amount of contributions, the dialogue in the chats. Again, really exciting stuff. Chris West will be showcasing some of that at 3:10 today, I believe, at the conference, so don't miss that. This particular one that Dov mentioned, the Wellington Morgan Stanley integration, I'm a big fan of security. I'm a big fan of being able to support interop. I'm going to say multi-party interop, and again, it looks great actually. So I'm going to be joining that session tomorrow. I wish you all join that session to participate. And of course, Rob, the mastermind in the weeds on this. If you want to learn about FDC3, take the time to go and spend some time with Rob, hands-on, some of the activities with FDC3 Sail, which I was looking at FDC3 Sail. Really quick way to bootstrap you and using the capabilities. But just one point on the web container pieces. I think that's really, the FDC3 web. I think that's really important because we'll always look at the desktop agent as the center of everything, and it's not. As we move to the web and obviously we go into cloud, we're going to need more SaaS-based interop, and I think those standards are going to open up a lot for how we communicate in the financial services industry. So with that said, I'm going to hand back to Gab. And Gab, thank you for giving me time, by the way, because Gab, you just talk a whole lot. So thank you for giving me some time.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah, I'm strangely on time, I guess. I don't know, let's check. But anyway, it's not just Morgan Stanley, BlackRock, Standard & Poor's. We have adoption statements from a few other important players in the market. And most importantly, client-facing adoption statements. So I'm really excited to share that FactSet has also embraced the FDC3 standard. They've been an early contributor, in fairness, to the standard since the very beginning, and they've joined FINOS as a member earlier this year. I am excited to see them, sending and receiving contexts, communicating with other applications through FDC3, not just through the existing proprietary protocols. We have London Stock Exchange, also a member of FINOS, a gold member of FINOS, who has been adopting FDC3 for their workspace product. Again, talking about network effect, the more we get not only buy side and sell side, but some of the leading market and data analytics platform to adopt the standard, you'll see how quickly this is going to spin into, hopefully, an industry-wide, truly cross-industry standard. Last but not least, earlier this year, we welcomed State Street to FINOS. FDC3 has been one of the key factors for them to join the foundation as they invest in adopting the standard to improve their capabilities of integrating with client and partners, and therefore, again, making sure that they de-risk their investment by also supporting the foundation and becoming a member. So I hope you get a chance you got a chance to really see where the standard is going. There's going to be plenty of content, live demos, a lot of talks and nice slides here, but the real action happens in the breakout sessions. And I guess, to me, the bottom line is this is getting really real, and especially when you have an interoperability standard that sits in the middle, the network effect and having all these players coming and showing their support really means a lot. I hope you find a reason to adopt it personally as a developer with plenty of tools like Sail to get started, and to sell it to your boss. If you don't know the standard, make sure you take the training. We have free training. Of course, check out the announcement. More than welcome if you want to amplify it. And again, if you're a member, it's a member benefit to become certified as part of the conformance framework. So thank you again to everyone coming on stage and supporting the standard. Okay, let's switch gears. It's not just about adoption. Our survey found this year that about 50% of the organizations and the respondents have funded open source through donations, direct-to-maintainer scholarships and sponsorships, and of course, foundations. So I think and hope that by now you understand that this is not charity. This is about realizing the value in open source, realizing how dependent on open source every single organization is, and therefore, not only contributing back in terms of sweat equity, in terms of developers, we have increasing number of developers who are allowed to contribute and do so, but also through sponsorship. This is not charity. And I'd argue, and especially when it comes to foundations, there's something fundamentally needed that foundations provide to allow competitors and corporates to collaborate in open source. Sounds cliche, but that is trust. Foundations enable trust at so many levels. That's an article that came out just 2 weeks ago from RedMonk, where finally someone is saying that foundations are considered helpful, but actually breaks down really well how the Linux Foundation, CNCF, and all the foundations out there really are predicated on trust, and they build trust. And so I want to kind of switch gears to the next topic of our day, which is breaking down what are these levels of trust that we enable, and B, how does it enable us to think big, to really go for higher order challenges that we can collaborate upon in open source. If you're familiar with the foundation, and maybe if you're a developer, you're not as well versed on legal nuances of open source, but the fundamental role of a foundation is to disintermediate intellectual property, to create a neutral steward for the trademark, in some cases for the copyright, or generally to not require copyright assignment, but really make sure that if you are a corporation, you know that nobody can sort of either change the license of that code, or that if done so, it's done through a community governance. And so neutral IP stewardship and compliance, so important in this industry, and then the idea of an open governance on top of open source to provide a level of steering that it's effectively a level playing field. All of our decisions, technical decisions in the foundation, happen based on meritocracy. Membership does not give you any additional right on the technical projects. And so I think even on the basis of these two sort of basic level of trust, we have seen over the years amazing things happen. Which brings me to another finding of our report, that something that I've been, I think we are ready as a community to start thinking about, which is the value beyond technology that open source brings to the table. This is sort of, it behooves us to really think, okay, now we have a community that is trusted, that is established, that is firing on all cylinders, where projects are getting adopted. What else truly is? What is the true sort of next step? And I don't know what sort of better example I can bring than the story of Kubernetes, in the way that it has fundamentally shaped the cloud-native market into an open ecosystem. If you're not familiar with the origin story, I would certainly recommend to check out the Kubernetes documentary produced by our sister foundation, the Cloud Native Computing Foundation. It is truly fascinating. But the bottom line, and you see a quote there, is that it became pretty clear at Google early in the days that incrementalism wasn't going to get them to be successful with GC. And so they had to find a different strategy. And the strategy was to open source Kubernetes and effectively create something that became a new de facto standard for the industry and really created not only billions of market capitalization of startups built on it, but really created a more sort of democratized access layer, if you want, to cloud. And honestly, I don't know how, better to talk about this topic and just in general the story of Kubernetes than having Kelsey Hightower. He's a retired distinguished engineer, advisor, and open source contributor, but he was there in the Google rooms when this all went down and had a huge impact on the cloud native and honestly open source community. So Kelsey, I'm truly delighted to have you here. Thank you so much. Welcome on stage.